In today's video, we're going to be doing a strip and race prep of this Scalextric Porsche 991. This car will be raced at a Scalextric Digital Club, which uses a fairly standard rule set, so there won't be anything too complicated going on with the car prep. I'm going to begin by removing the body and all of the components fitted to the chassis. I'll start with the front tyres and then move on to removing the rear axle and the motor. Once the business end's been removed, we'll unscrew the guide, remove the guide, the shoes and the braids, and then remove the DPR hatch and the electrical connections. Once the JST has been removed, a common trick I like to do is to cut off the little retaining lugs that sit either side of the white connector. These are designed to keep the plug in place, but I find that it really makes removal quite difficult, and that it stays in place quite well even without them. Using a scalpel blade to remove them certainly makes life a lot easier when it comes to future maintenance. The final component to move is the traction magnet, which is normally situated between the motor and the rear axle. This can sometimes be quite tricky with this Scalextric car and is achieved by prying out the magnet using a flat blade screwdriver. Now the magnet's out, I'm going to refit the motor and the rear axle. I'm then going to true up the rear wheels using sandpaper before fitting the front tyres to the rear wheels so that I can true up the front tyres, making sure that they're nice and round once they're refitted to the front axle. Here we go with the truing of the rear wheels. This is done by running the car under power against a piece of sandpaper. Firstly, I'll true the central boss and then move to the edges of the wheels themselves. Now the wheels have been trued up, it's time to fit the front tyres and repeat the process. As always, we're looking for that nice consistent colour and texture on the tyre to tell us the surface has been trued equally. Now it's time to measure the tyre diameter with the calipers to make sure that both sides have been trued equally. The final stage of the front tyre prep is just to round off the corners. A square corner can help the tyre dig in and cause D-slots, so ideally you want to round the edges. I'm going to do this just by tilting the car from side to side and putting a profile on the edge of those tyres. With the sanding job complete, we just want to clean off the excess rubber from the surface of the tyres, simply with some lighter fuel and a rag. Once that's done, it's simply a case of brushing off the excess into my trash can below the desk. Once that's done and we're all cleaned up, we can fit our newly trued front tyres back onto the front wheels where they belong. Final stage of the front tyre prep is to apply a coating of clear nail polish to each of the front tyres. The reason for doing so is to have a hard and glossy surface finish, meaning that any contact between the front tyre and the track will be as friction free as possible. Another method of doing this is to use superglue, CA, cyanoacrylate, but nail polish is a little bit easier to work with. The next section of the video is going to use the audio recorded from the camera, so be prepared for a slight change in pitch. While we're waiting for that nail varnish to dry, we're going to sand the top off this guide, because when you put the screw in, there's still a gap there and it makes the guide move up and down in the slot. So we're just going to take the top off this guide just on a piece of sandpaper. Should probably be enough. I'm just going to grab a small file because it's not exactly even. And just trim the flash. So when we put this in now, yeah, that's perfectly flush now, whereas it would have stuck out before. Right, now we can do the varnish on the other tyre. While I'm waiting for that other tyre to dry, I'm going to remove the motor and the rear axle again. And just tidy up some of the rubber debris from the front tyre sanding. Something you can use to good effect for cleaning is actually Blu Tack, because you can just roll it around inside and it will pick up all the dirt and grime. And the reason that I'm cleaning it now is because I want to fit some lead ballast to this car. It will help it handle a little bit better. I don't typically like adding weight to cars as a first port of call, but from experience I've done one of these before and I know that they go well with a little bit of weight in the back, so we'll do that now. What I did there was just bent the lead in like a U shape and press it down so it goes beneath the magnet holders. You can see. And while we've got this Blu Tack, we can also use it to clean the crown gear. Okay. So we'll refit the motor. We'll refit the rear axle. Now what I want to do is glue the rear axle in, so I'm using some cyanoacrylate, CA glue, super glue. I'm going to put it on this cocktail stick and then I'm going to just dab it in the bearings, because you really don't want to do too much. And this way you can get the axle out again without absolutely covering it in glue. Okay. So while the motor area is clean, we're going to hot glue it in. So I do this side first, we're just going to run a bead along the bottom. And we're going to switch sides. Don't worry if you make a mess, because you can get rid of it later. Again, just run that bead along the bottom. And then we're done. So to get rid of all this excess mess, you can literally just pull it off. If you have any really stubborn pieces, and this goes for removing the motor as well, you can just use some lighter fluid and it will break up the bond, and a blunt edge, and you'll be able to crack it off. That's fine for now. Just some around that wheel, just get rid of that. Okay. So now we've glued our motor and our axle in, we're going to do the rear tyres. Now, customer has asked for urethane tyres on the back of this one, which we've got right here. So we'll fit those and get started. Let's see, we'll go this way around. They fit pretty well actually, these are obviously well made. So we'll get our tring paper back. Remember, green wire is positive for skeleton cars. Because this is a urethane, we're going to get all that grey dust coming off the tyres. It's looking pretty good. So we'll clean these up and then clean the chassis out. Okay. Okay, so let's reassemble. We'll do the rear lights. Right, we've got the rear lights fitted. We'll screw this hatch back in now. Just got the guide here, that's going back into. All we've done is fix the braid cheese and screwed the guide back in, so you haven't missed much. So we're pretty much there now, to be honest. All I'm going to do is just trim around the body posts, just to open those holes up a little bit. This is important when you're using standard screws because they'll bind on these edges otherwise. If you're using proper racing screws with a shank, then this isn't necessary. One thing we do need to do is remove all this rubbish from the interior tray. And I need to grind this down as well, because it won't go together properly otherwise. So I'm going to Dremel safety glasses. And all we're going to do is just grind away this. And that should now go together nicely, instead of awfully. Well, what do you know? That's pretty much it. Are there any clips? There are some clips on this body, so of course we could have done this with the Dremel as well. Lovely. Right, so our body screws here. 1, 2, 3. A nice rock there, that's what we want. Spread these braids a bit. And once the braids are nice and even, we're done with this car. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.